I would like to continue with mycotic actually. So mycotic infections of the oral cavity. Because whenever we speak about mycotic infections of the oral cavity, the first and foremost that strikes to our mind is one and only one, Candida, isn't it? Of course, apart from Candida, nowadays even people are asking from other mycotic diseases also, probably histoplasmosis, rhinosporidiosis, mucorales or mucormycosis. So we'll see about them. Yes, Gilchrist, the name Adam Gilchrist, who is an opener for Australian team, former cricketer. So on his name it has come, Gilchrist disease. It is also known as, of course, it's a North American blastomycosis. You have something known as South American blastomycosis also. Of course, the disease and the causative organism, they are completely different actually. So here in this case, Gilchrist disease, it is also known as North American blastomycosis. You have various clinical features and histological features. We'll see what it is. You have a cell, please note this. You have something like double layered things, isn't it? Two walls you are seeing. This is one and this is one. So North American blastomycosis, of course it is a fungal infection, mycotic infection caused by Blastomyces dermatitis, and it occurs either in cutaneous form or in a systemic form involving bone, liver, lungs, subcutaneous tissue and other organs, more common in men and typically occurs in middle age. As it is, I mean most commonly, most of the fungal infections are cutaneous forms only actually, most of the things. The common fungal infection which most of them will have and they are not bothered. Any guesses? No? It's the dandruff. Dandruff is a fungal infection which most of us will have, but none of us are bothered about that because it is harmless. At the max, people may lose some hair, that's all. On histopathological examination of a tissue infected with fungal infection, it shows typical round organisms, often budding, measuring about 5 to 15 micrometers in diameter and having a characteristic doubly refractile capsule. And the most suggested diagnosis would be, see, they have given all the explanation and they are asking you which what disease can it be. So these are all the features of the same blastomycosis only, North American blastomycosis. Please carry on. And the microscopic features of North American blastomycosis, they are similar to those of chronic granulomatous infections. That means you need to find some necrotic area, epithelioid cells, lymphocytes and some giant cells. Inflamed connective tissue shows occasional giant cells. Of course, here these are the giant cells and macrophages. Even you can find some microabscesses, and if the lesion is not ulcerated, you will find overlying pseudoepitheliomatous hyperplasia. This is your nothing but doubly refractile capsule. Causative microbe implicated behind the pathogenesis of South American blastomycosis. Previously we have seen North American blastomycosis, dermatitis. This is Blastomyces dermatitis for North American. But for South American, which is the well-known country for South America, just check for that. You have Brazil, of course, that is nothing but your Blastomyces brasiliensis. So South American blastomycosis, which is nothing but a paracoccidioidomycosis, which is a deep fungal infection. It has predilection for males. It spreads by hematogenous or lymphatic route to a variety of tissues or organs, including lymph node, skin and adrenal gland. These are all different representations of the fungi. This is the ship's wheel we call. This is Mickey Mouse ears we call. Different presentations of the fungi. Here you can see this is the Mickey Mouse ears. When there is adrenal involvement, that is the adrenal gland, it often results in hypoadrenocorticism, which is nothing but your Addison's disease. A section stained with Grocott-Gomery methenamine silver method, that is a special stain actually. It will illustrate the characteristic Mickey Mouse ears appearance of the budding yeast. This is, if you use this stain, silver stain, then they will appear as if Mickey Mouse ears. Next, moving to the next one, we have finished blastomycosis. Then we have the histoplasmosis, which is very commonly asked nowadays actually. It's a fungal infection. It is chiefly caused due to inhalation of dust containing spores of the fungus, or ingestion of food containing spores, or is it an opportunistic, or is it traumatic roadside traffic accident? Of course, it is inhalation of dust containing spores of the fungus. Most of the fungal infections are caused because of the inhalation of the dust containing spores only. Of course, you have options. Opportunistic fungal infection, the best example is here Candida. And ingestion of food containing spores, you have some parasites. You have some examples, Taenia solium, which is present in pork. If it is not properly cooked, those spores are inhaled, then they will start developing. Coming to the explanation, histoplasmosis, it is a generalized fungal infection caused by the organism Histoplasma capsulatum. Source of inhalation of it is mainly because of inhalation of the dust which contains the excreta of birds such as pigeons, starling and blackbirds. Of course, it is a dimorphic, that means it is present in two morphologies. It can grow as a yeast at body temperature in humans, or it can be as a mold in its natural environment. Humid area with soil enriched by bird or bat excrement are especially suited for the growth of this organism. The microbe causing histoplasmosis has a special predilection for, it is for the reticuloendothelial system actually. See, once if the patient is here, if he inhales the dust containing the spores, then they will travel to the lungs, and from the lungs you have something known as alveolar spaces, and the alveolar spaces you have the macrophages which will entrap them. Then from there they will enter into the lymphatic system, and from there they will reach to the targeted areas like mediastinal lymph nodes, where they will multiply, and then they will enter the bloodstream and they will spread throughout the body. So it has got main predilection for the reticuloendothelial system. When it is reticuloendothelial system, it will travel to all parts of the reticuloendothelial system like liver, spleen, etc. So the disease is characterized by chronic low-grade fever, productive cough, splenomegaly, hepatomegaly, lymphadenopathy, because it has got special predilection for the reticuloendothelial system. So whatever whatever organs that make up the reticuloendothelial system, all are involved, mainly spleen, liver, lymph nodes and bone marrow. And sometimes anemia and leukopenia may also be present. Leukopenia, it is nothing but the less WBC cells, leukopenia. Next, one more, coccidioidomycosis. It is also known as valley fever actually. Darling's disease, it is something different. Gilchrist disease, already we have seen, North American blastomycosis. This is the biology for coccidioidomycosis, just like as I have told you for histoplasmosis. It is also known as valley fever or Sanjaquin valley fever. It is now recognized as a relatively common fungal disease and endemic, chiefly located in the southern western portion of the United States, especially Arizona, California, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas and Utah. It is the western portion of US, and initially these are the skin lesions that occurs. As I said initially, most of the fungal infections are they'll target the cutaneous regions actually, and the disease appears to be transmitted to man and animals by inhalation of dust which contains the spores. And there are two basic forms of the disease: primary non-decimated and progressive disseminated coccidiomycosis. And this is how the spores look like. Yes, our favorite mycotic function, infection. Chief cultural characteristic of Candida albicans includes reproduction by sexual budding and formation of pseudohyphae. There is no sexual budding for Candida. It is by asexual budding and formation of pseudohyphae. Of course, this is right. Reproduction by formation of spores. No, there is asexual budding. Then there is no reproduction by formation of spores. Reproduction by mitotic division. No. So the right answer is reproduction by asexual budding and formation of pseudohyphae. You can see here. And one peculiar thing about Candida albicans is it is not parallel to the epithelium, it will be perpendicular to the epithelium. And the reason why it will be perpendicular to the epithelium is easy to invade, and most of the hydrolytic enzymes are located at the tip of the Candida albicans, so that those hydrolytic enzymes are released, which can create a way for the Candida albicans to enter into connective tissue. Of course, whereas the other mycotic infections or mycotic organisms exist in two forms, but this exists in three forms, namely pseudohyphae, yeast and chlamydospore forms. It reproduces by asexual budding and forms pseudohyphae. It grows at 25 to 37 degrees, and you have different species also which differ from one another, but can be identified by the formation of pseudohyphae or by some biochemical tests. This is how the yeast-like cells look like. These are the blastospores, this is the hyphae, long thread-like, and these are the chlamydospores. This is how they look like. Candida infection, actually it is the most opportunistic infection in the world. Moniliasis is nothing but the other name for candidiasis, or else you can call it as thrush, oral thrush. Of course, white patches, they can be scraped off actually, that is the difference. It is also known as candidiasis, moniliasis, thrush, most opportunistic infection in the world. Normally itself we can find Candida in our oral cavity. When the immune system goes down because of other factors, then this will start and show its potential and causes candidiasis. And its occurrence has increased remarkably since the prevalent use of antibiotics, which will destroy the normally inhibitory bacterial flora, and the immunosuppressive drugs like corticosteroids, cytotoxic drugs, and even there are many other predisposing factors also, like tuberculosis, diabetes mellitus, anemia, myxedema, hypoparathyroidism, Addison's disease, immunodeficiency in AIDS, nutritional deficiency like irons, vitamin A, vitamin B6. All these are the predisposing factors that can cause the Candida to get activated and lead to candidiasis. Of course, radiation therapy, use of intravenous tubes, catheters, old age, infancy, even in pregnancy also. These are all the predisposing factors for Candida. And in candidiasis, you have many types also: pseudomembrane candidiasis, atrophic candidiasis, hyperplastic candidiasis, candidiasis associated with some endocrinal imbalance also. We will see one by one. Pseudomembranous candidiasis, it is characterized by white plaque-like areas resembling milk curds that cannot be wiped off easily. As I said previously, candidiasis, the white patch can be wiped off. So this is wrong. White plaque-like areas resembling milk curds that can be wiped off. Yes, most frequently it will occur on buccal mucosa and tongue. That is also true. So both the statements B and C are true in this case. Coming to the explanation, the oral lesions are characterized by the presence of soft, white, slightly elevated plaques, most frequently occurring on the buccal mucosa and tongue. Of course, even the other sides can also be involved, palate, gingiva and floor of the mouth, and this can be scraped. It is scrapable. But whereas the other, you have white patch like leukoplakia, which is non-scrapable. It cannot be scraped off. Or lichen planus cannot be scraped off. We are coming for that. The plaque, which have often been described grossly as resembling milk curds, it consists chiefly of tangled masses of fungal hyphae with intermingled desquamated epithelium, keratin, fibrin, necrotic debris, leukocytes and some bacteria. So when you wipe off the pseudomembranous, you will find some red colored structure there. The white plaque can usually be wiped away with a gauze, leaving either relatively normal appearing mucosa or an erythematous area. And the candidiasis infection usually associated with denture wearing patients. Definitely it is the atrophic candidiasis, because that is also known as denture stomatitis or denture sore mouth, a diffuse erythema and edema of the denture bearing area. You can see actually, because as the patient is wearing denture for a long time, there will be atrophy. Yes, chronic hyperplastic candidiasis, you are asking about this. This is often spoken as leukoplakia type of candidiasis because of definite relationship of chronic candidiasis with true leukoplakia. Of course, even they can be associated with folate deficiency and defective cell-mediated immunity. When you see a normal candidiasis and hyperplastic candidiasis, you will have a raised layer of white patch. Okay. Of course, erythematous candidiasis, it is also known as antibiotic sore mouth. Definitely, because of long usage of antibiotics, you can have this type of candidiasis. Then pseudomembranous is especially prone to occur in debilitated or chronically ill patients or in infants. As I said, even this can be associated with some endocrine abnormality. So that is nothing but candidiasis endocrinopathy syndrome, which is characterized by candida infection of skin, scalp, nails, mucous membranes, then genetic transmission of the syndrome, then some, as I said, endocrine abnormality, hypoadrenalism, hypoparathyroidism, hypothyroidism. All these features should be present, then only you can call it as candidiasis endocrinopathy syndrome. The same thing, they have explained it here. Next one is id reaction. When can you call it as id reaction? When there is some reaction where the candida hyphae marks the reaction between candida and mucous membranes, are you going to call it as id reaction, or is it due to hypersensitivity reaction to candidal antigen or reaction of candidal hyphae with blood vessels A and B? Id reaction is, see, these reactions, whenever they ask you about reactions, definitely they will be hypersensitivity reactions only. Okay, and when it is with candidal antigen, then only you can call it as id reaction. It is a hypersensitivity reaction to candidal antigen which manifests as a vesicular and papular rash on the skin of patients with chronic candidiasis. Can you see some rashes? I mean, like, it's very irregular, the plantar surfaces and all those things. A simple diagnostic modality frequently used to establish the diagnosis of candidiasis from oral cavity involves a simple, they are asking, taking biopsy sample, that is normally done for all the things. It's not simple. Taking the plaque samples on slides, then use some 20% KOH and examine under microscope. Can you see the candida? Of course you can see. Then take the plaque samples, culture them. Culturing them is again long. Then applying toluidine blue stain to oral mucosa and examining for color changes. Applying toluidine blue is for pre-malignant lesions, conditions and malignancies actually. Okay, not for candidiasis. And of course we can go with B. Of course a 20% KOH, even a 10% KOH will do actually. Normally in oral pathology we do with 10% KOH, where candida can be seen under microscope. Just take the plaque, put it on the slide, dip it in KOH 10%, see under the microscope. So fragments of the plaque material of oral candidiasis smeared on a slide, then macerated with 20% potassium hydroxide, examined for typical hyphae. You will see the hyphae like this, or the spores or whatever it is. Okay. And this is the culture. as I said, even previously, like the blood agar, the pie agar, then you have one more agar here. It can be cultured in blood agar or cornmeal agar or subroids broth. This is how they grow. An opportunistic in fungal microbe which has an apparent predilection for blood vessels and having ability to penetrate their walls and thereby producing thrombosis is, of course, Candida can't do that. Geotrichum, we don't know what it is. Phycomycosis, it is nothing but mucormycosis. And rhinosporidiosis, 1, 2 and 3 are mycotic infections. So the answer is phycomycosis here. It has got some predilection for blood vessels. They will penetrate their walls and they will lead to thrombosis. Phycomycosis, also known as zygomycosis or mucormycosis. It is a fungal infection caused by the order Mucorales. That's why they are known as mucormycosis. The tissue is involved by this infection shows variable amount of necrosis, some of which may be related to infarction brought about by thrombi consisting of the organism, and fungus has an apparent predilection for blood vessels where they penetrate their walls and thereby produce thrombosis. This is how the hyphae looks like. One interesting thing about mucormycosis or mucorales is they branch at an obtuse angle. They branch at an obtuse angle. Yes. But whereas phycomycosis, it is obtuse angle. One early clinical manifestation of the disease is the appearance of a reddish black turbinate and septum with a nasal discharge, and the necrosis may extend to the paranasal sinuses and orbital cavity with the development of sinus tracts and sloughing of the tissue. Me myself personally, I have seen some 4 to 8 cases of mucormycosis. The most frequent intraoral site involved by the rhinosporidiosis is definitely the soft palate. Rhinosporidiosis. This also, I got a chance to see a couple of patients with rhinosporidiosis actually. That is intraoral. This is extraorally, the most favorite location will be the nose actually, the nasal mucosa. Rhinosporidiosis, it is also a chronic granulomatous disease caused by a fungus called Rhinosporidio seabri. Nasal mucosa is the most common site involved, whereas the frequent intraoral site will be a soft palate. Oropharyngeal lesions of rhinosporidiosis appears as, see this, of course they are soft, red, polypoid growth of a tumor-like nature. It appears as if it is a tumor, often accompanied with a mucoid discharge. You don't find any ulcerations. They have given one ulceration option. Pseudomembranous hyphae, milk curd-like appearance, that is also not there. Erythematous areas of desquamation, that is also not there. It is appearing as if it is a tumor. So we can go with the option A. Interesting, these are all nothing but the sporangias containing the spores. Very typical. You don't find this picture for any other infection. Oronasopharyngeal lesions of rhinosporidiosis are often accompanied by a mucoid discharge, and they will appear as soft red polypoid growths of a tumor-like nature which will spread to the pharynx and larynx. This is the histopath picture. Lesions are vascular and they will bleed readily. The organisms will appear as sporangia containing large number of round or ovoid endospores in either smear preparations or tissue sections. These sporangia are characteristic in appearance. You can take a small bit of tissue, process it, section it, see under microscope, you will find the same picture. If not, if you want to perform some exfoliative cytology, little deep, then you can find the sporangia containing the endospores. Next, Chagas disease is primarily, is it a parasitic infection known as trypanosomiasis, or is it known as leishmaniasis, or is it a fungal infection, or what is it? See, we know that Leishmaniasis or trypanosomiasis both are not fungal, they are parasitic infections. So the option lies in between these, and it's a straight thing. Chagas disease is primarily a parasitic infection which is also known as trypanosomiasis. It is recognized that it may involve oral structures in some fashion, others it may involve, and even leishmaniasis or trichomoniasis or toxoplasmosis, even they will also involve the oral cavity. Next, it's meiosis. Meiosis is characterized by, whenever you hear this word meiosis, please do remember about something known as maggots. Maggots are nothing but some larval form, small worm-like structures. They will be moving inside the tissues. Yes. That's why they are the larval form. Meiosis is characterized by fungal infection of acute nature? No. Infestation of body tissues of animal by the larvae commonly known as maggots? Of course. It is the other name for fungal infection. Moniliasis? No. Moniliasis is nothing but your candida. Infestations of muscles with fungal microorganisms? No. Maggots, meiosis. Okay. This is the maggot. You can see it clearly here. This is the maggot. Probably if you see some dead animal which is left for weekdays on the roads, definitely you will see some worms. Those are nothing but the maggots. So these are nothing but the larval form, commonly known as maggots. These are two-winged flies, which is nothing but the Diptera. It occurs mainly in the tropics and is associated with poor personal hygiene. They are painful. The growth there will be ulceration, and there will be itching because of the crawling movements of the larvae. Next we have the clinical presentation of parasitic infestation by cysticercosis in oral cavity. What does it produce? It will be solitary or multiple, painless, well circumscribed, fluctuant swelling mimicking mucoceles actually. That's a straight thing. Of course, it doesn't create any foul smelling, or it is not a tumor-like growth also. Cysticercosis. Cysticercus is nothing but Cysticercus cellulosa caused by Taenia solium. So it is caused by a larval form of Cysticercus, which is a Taenia species, nothing but Taenia solium, which will infest the human beings. Of course, this is ingested or human beings get infected because of having improperly cooked pork that contains Taenia solium. Of course, this is the diagrammatic representation of Taenia solium with the head and the rest of the body. The head will have the sucker, hooks and scolex. With the help of this only, it is going to attach to the walls of the intestine or esophagus or whatever it is. So intraorally, it will involve lips, cheeks and tongue, and in most cases it will present as a solitary or multiple painless, well circumscribed, fluctuant swelling, and often mimics mucoceles. So it's the same, the picture we have seen already for zygomycosis, that is mucormycosis or phycomycosis. A particular form of fungal infection associated with patients having uncontrolled diabetes mellitus and malignancy like lymphomas is phycomycosis. It is the same explanation. So immunocompromised patients are more prone to develop this infection, as well as patients with burns or open wounds. So that's the end of the fungal infections. So in the next schedule we can have the viral infections. Thank you.